Hi everyone, this is Dr. James DiNicolantonio, author of The Cell Fix and The Mineral Fix, and today I'm going to be talking about a substance called Inositol, many times just referred to as Inositol. It's a supplement that you can get, and it actually tastes like powdered sugar. It's a pretty interesting molecule. Our bodies synthesize Inositol from glucose, and we're said to produce somewhere around 4 grams per day, and that we get about maybe 1 gram per day through the diet. Now, it's considered a non-essential nutrient because the body can synthesize it. But to give you an example of many non-essential nutrients that provide many benefits if we exogenously take them, would be something like fish oil, like EPA and DHA. Technically, it's non-essential because we can make it from the plant parent omega-3 fat, ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, but the conversion is really bad. And we know clinical studies, especially giving higher doses of EPA and DHA, lead to significant benefits. Typically 3 to 4 grams of EPA and DHA have been shown to reduce triglycerides, cardiovascular events, blood pressure, things like that. So we're talking about fairly high gram doses of something that is supposedly non-essential, but can provide numerous benefits. Another example of a non-essential nutrient that if you take in high gram doses can provide benefits would be something like glycine. So glycine at 5 grams 3 to 4 times a day has been shown to improve blood glucose levels, blood pressure, things like that. And there's many other examples of non-essential nutrients that if you take even in high gram doses, exogenously through supplementation, can provide a lot of benefits. And Inositol seems to be one of those compounds as well. So one of the reasons why taking exogenous Inositol may be beneficial is because a lot of people may be deficient in it, because numerous things can lead to a depletion of Inositol. So for example, in order to form Inositol from glucose, a phosphatase enzyme requires magnesium. So if you're magnesium deficient, your ability to biosynthesize Inositol will go down. Another problem that's very prevalent in the United States is insulin resistance in people with high insulin levels and glucose levels. And glucose directly competes with sodium's ability to drive Inositol into the cell. Elevated glucose levels also increase sorbitol into the cell, which basically reduces the amount of inositol that will come into the cell because it increases its osmolarity. And thus, the cell will not want to take up as much Inositol because that's going to further increase the osmolarity and drive too much water into the cell. So elevated glucose levels push basically Inositol out of the cell and reduce its ability to go into the cell. And then elevated glucose levels also reduce the kidney's ability to reabsorb inositol. And inositol gets reabsorbed by sodium. So caffeine and coffee, which increase and kick out sodium out of the urine, are also going to deplete the body of inositol because it's going to reduce the body's ability to reabsorb the inositol with the sodium because the caffeine and coffee are kicking it out. So you have magnesium deficiency, insulin resistance, elevated glucose levels, caffeine, coffee, all deplete the body of inositol. And insulin resistance itself, too, will further deplete Inositol because there's a decrease in the conversion of Inositol to dichloroinositol, which is important for insulin sensitivity. So that basically, that enzyme that converts Inositol to dichloroinositol is insulin sensitive and insulin dependent. So if you're insulin resistant, you're going to reduce the conversion of Inositol to dichloro, and then the lack of dichloroinositol worsens insulin resistance even more, elevating glucose levels, reducing Inositol, et cetera, et cetera. So it's this vicious cycle. So what's even more interesting is that there have been many randomized controlled trials in humans giving doses of Inositol anywhere from 1 gram, even upwards of 20 grams per day, showing numerous benefits. Probably the most well-studied is patients with PCOS that are insulin resistant. So giving 2 grams of Inositol twice a day has been shown to improve fertility in PCOS patients, polycystic ovary syndrome patients. And there's been at least 4 randomized controlled studies showing that. Whether or not dichloroinositol at small doses added to that would add additional benefits, the literature is a little bit divided on that. but at lower doses, it may actually, adding a little bit of dichloroinositol to the myo-inositol may even enhance the benefits. But the benefits of myo-inositol don't stop there. So coffee actually reduces the absorption of myo-inositol as well by about 25%. So I typically like to add about 3 grams of myo-inositol to my coffee twice a day, because I have 2 cups of coffee per day. And that should hopefully not only just maintain good levels, but actually, give me a good boost twice a day. So myo-inositol has been studied in depression, in people with OCD, even in Alzheimer's patients, showing some decent benefits at around anywhere from 6 to 18 grams per day, typically in divided doses. So myo-inositol is, again, formed from glucose, and it really is. There's about 9 different stereoisomers that are formed off of inositol, or myo-inositol, which is the same thing as in the semantics. But the other main isomer, besides myo-inositol itself, is what I had mentioned before, dichloroinositol. Both are very important for insulin signaling. So how insulin actually works is it'll hit its receptor, and then there'll be different pathways, different secondary messengers to then increase glucose oxidation in the mitochondria, or increase GLUT4 vesicles to transport into the cell membrane to bring glucose into the cell. Those secondary messengers are dependent on myo-inositol and dichloroinositol. So without those, insulin doesn't work very well. And not only are you bringing in more glucose and improving glucose levels, that has been shown with this substance, you also actually improve the glycogen synthesis and glycogen storage in the liver and in the skeletal muscle. So this is important for athletic performance because it's allowing you to utilize glucose better. You're going to burn it better in the mitochondria with good levels of inositol, and you're going to be able to bring it into the cell better, and you're going to be able to bring it into the skeletal muscle and synthesize glycogen better with inositol. So we have insulin resistance improvements in blood glucose, probably improvements in athletic performance because of the glycogen synthesis and the better ability to utilize and burn glucose as a fuel. Then you have on the other end of the spectrum, mental health. Panic attacks have been shown to be helped with inositol, even potentially sleep. And then you also have the OCD, the depression, the Alzheimer's, and all these other benefits too on this side. And there's other benefits too, potentially even lung cancer, chemo prevention. There's been one study, it was a phase 1 study that showed inositol has benefits on potentially transitioning of dysplastic tissue or like sort of precancerous tissue to cancerous tissue. And so part of that may be due to the fact that myo-inositol can convert to something called IP6, inositol hexaphosphate, which when you combine both seems to have even better cancer potential. There's been clinical studies testing both in cancer patients, actually showing decent benefits. So we need larger studies on that. So you have glucose effects, mental health effects, PCOS effects, fertility, gestational diabetes, and then there's a plethora of other potential benefits spanning from cancer and other things like that. But it's something that I've added to my daily regimen. It tastes great. Again, it tastes like powdered sugar. I just add about 3 grams to my coffee twice a day. Hopefully you found this information helpful.